Hi friends, welcome back to Sheena's Homestead. Today we are doing something very different. We are going to pressure can some ground beef. Now you might be asking me, Sheena, why would we do that? Well, there's a couple reasons why we do that. One is convenience. So once we have our ground beef cooked and it's all in our jars and it's shelf stable, we can just pull that off the shelf and easily make ourselves a meal in a matter of minutes. So you can add it to things like spaghetti or chili. You can also make nachos, all kinds of things. Anything that you use ground beef in, you're skipping the browning and cooking process. So that makes things really, really simple and easy. Reason number two why we might do something like this is so that we don't have to depend on our freezer. So this summer I got a really great deal on a lot of grass-fed ground beef, and all of that meat is in our freezer right now. But if the power were to go out, I would lose thousands of dollars in ground beef and other products that are in there. Or if, let's say, our freezer just ended up malfunctioning and dying, we would also lose our meat, or something like the kids could leave the freezer door open. So for those three reasons, which all of those things can and do happen, I'd like to put a little bit of our meat on the shelf so that we have some insurance in case something like that happens. Now, today I am working with my Presto pressure canner. I absolutely love this machine. It takes the guesswork out of everything. You can feel extremely confident when you're using it. All you have to do is follow the manual. It warms the jars for us. You're going to see everything, but it is a really great tool. And for new beginners, I find that it's essential because it gives you that confidence to make sure you are doing things right. So we are going to be following our manual today. It has all the different cook times for the different items that you might make in the canning process. And then I also have something like this, which is my ball guide to preserving. And there's a lot of different books and stuff out there that can show you different recipes and things, because it is a science and we are going to use our proven methods, and with a little help of our Presto canner, we're gonna get the job done. So let's get started. So I've got some ground beef here. It is thawing in my little prep sink. I actually am going to be working with 9 pounds of ground beef today. But let me just say that a couple of those pounds are going to be reserved for dinner tonight and dinners in the future this week. So whenever I'm cooking something big like this, I try to make enough for my project, but then also enough for dinner tonight, so that I'm not using the reserve that I'm making right now and also a couple days in advance. So I've got 9 pounds of ground beef, and then I have 5 quart-sized jars is what we're going to be working with today. I find that I get about 1.5 pounds per jar. So let's see how that works out, but we're going to get started on browning our meat. So like I said, we are using the Ball cookbook for preservation, and this is their seasoned ground beef canning recipe. And so we are going to start off with 1.5 cups of chopped onions. That equals about 2 medium onions. And then I am adding a teaspoon of salt to the mixture. My onions are frozen, so I'm just letting them thaw out a little bit over the heat, and then we're going to get them nice and cooked up so that they are translucent and ready to add. And then after that step, we've got our minced garlic, and for this we are going to use about 2 cloves. It's okay if you like extra garlic and want to use a little bit more than that. That's completely fine. So now that our onions and garlic are done, I've got them on the side in a big bowl that we're going to mix everything together. Now I'm just going to add some ground beef to this pot, same pot, and we are going to cook in batches until all of our meat is browned. So we are at about a medium stage of doneness, maybe medium well. And now I am just gonna drain the fat off into a jar, and I'm gonna place this meat in our bowl. So I'm gonna use this strainer, and I'm just picking up the beef, straining out the fat. You can even press down a little bit. And then we are going to put that into our bowl. And repeat. If you thought you just heard a duck quack, you did. We have one of our ducks residing in a bin in our garage right now. She's actually in a big metal tub, and we've got her in there because she hurt her foot and she wasn't doing very well. So the kids and I scooped her up and got her in the garage, and Rob has been changing out her bin religiously and just giving her a chance to heal up this little wound she has on her foot. And then getting back to our recipe, you can see here I am just cooking up our second batch of meat, and I'm going to transfer it over to our bowl so that we can get started on the process of pressure canning this meat. So now I have the Presto canner plugged in, and the first thing I'm going to do is press the next button, and then here we get to choose the time that we want our product to process. And the cookbook says 90 minutes. So I press 90 minutes, and then you advance to the next step, and it says warming. So you want to make sure that you fill your bottom container to the fill line. We live on well water here, so you can see that my water is a little hard and it does stain the sides of the pot, which is just fine. You just want to make sure that you get your water up to this maximum fill line right there, and then we can advance to our next step, which is loading our jars. So you want to fill the jars halfway with water, and you want to make sure that water is warm. It speeds up the process of warming. And then you load everything in, and then you can press next again. Now we're going to put on the lid. You want to make sure you line up the right line with where your marker is on the bottom, and then just turn it till it clicks. And then we just want to lock this little green spot in place, and we can go on with our next step. And we are ready to can it up. My Presto canner just beeped twice, which means that the jars are fully warmed and ready to go. So I'm going to take the lid off, and using this, I'm going to pull one jar out at a time. Now remember, our jars are full of warm water, and at this point it is now hot. So we're going to empty each jar just one at a time, and that's so that we keep everything nice and hot, so that we keep it nice and sterile. Okay, and then the other thing you're going to need is a pot of very hot boiling water. It's okay if it's calmed down and not currently boiling while you use it, but as long as it's been boiled to some point that it kills all the germs that could be in it or around it, and then have that ready. So now we're going to take out 1 quart at a time. We're going to dump this water in the sink. Be careful, it's hot. And then we're going to get started. Okay, so now I have my funnel and I am just pouring some of this ground beef into our quart-sized jars. The wide mouth jars definitely work better for this process. We don't want to get any beef or grease on the edge of our glass if we can help it. So the wide mouth makes that a lot easier. So I'm just scooping that in, and we're going to leave about an inch head space. And then I'm also using this boiling water to pour it in over the beef, and I'm going to fill it up as well, just to about an inch before the rim. This tool that I have here is a debubbler. You want to use something that is either plastic or wood. You don't want to use metal because you don't want to accidentally chip the sides of your glass and compromise that at all. It will break in your pressure canner. So just move your ground beef back and forth a little bit with my debubbler has a handy little measuring tool on the end, so I can see that I've got exactly 1 inch head space for this jar. And then we're going to take a very clean paper towel, and I've dipped it in vinegar. We're going to clean the edge of our glass. We don't want any grease on the edge because that can prevent it from sealing properly. So we want to make sure that is completely clean before we put our lid on top. And then make sure to only screw it on finger tight. You don't want it to be too tight, you don't want it to be too loose, but just use the tips of your fingers and kind of screw on until you meet some resistance and stop there. So we are going to repeat this process until all 5 of our jars are completely full and ready to be canned. Okay, so now you're going to want to put on your lid, line it up at the right point here, and then rotate it to lock, just like that. And then over here, you're going to want to lower your temperature sensor arm, and then just slide it in place until that is locked as well. This top piece here is called the regulator, and you definitely want to take that off during the venting phase. You will put this back on later, and you will see when I do that. So now we're going to wait for this to beep, and then we'll know it's ready to begin. Okay, so now you can hear that it is beeping, and it says that it is ready to can and that we need to put our regulator here on the top. So I'm sorry for the poor video. I was trying to hold the camera while also putting the regulator on, which is hot. You should definitely use something to protect your hand while you're doing that. But once you get it on, it looks like this. So now we let the canner go through its entire process. When it is done, it will say cool on it just like this, and it will stay that way until it starts a countdown. And when the countdown starts, it'll begin at 10 minutes, and it'll count down from there all the way to 0, and then you can release your pressure. So then what we're waiting for is that little silver peg on the right to drop down. Once that is dropped down, it means that enough steam has come out and the pressure has released. All right, well, as you can see, it is nighttime. It's after dinner. It's been a couple hours since we started our pressure canner, and we are finally at the end of the process. So the next step is to make sure you have protection on your hand, something that will allow you to stay safe and not get burned. So we waited for the little pin to drop at the top like I just showed you. And now we are going to unlock and pull this part up. As you can tell, it is still pretty hot. So now we have 5 quart-sized jars of ground beef, all safe and sound. This can go directly on our pantry shelves. It doesn't need to be cooked. Of course, when you're making a meal, you can definitely warm it back up and it'll taste delicious. It's got all that onion and garlic already infused inside of it, so you don't need to take out onions and dice and peel, and you don't have to take out your garlic and get that all peeled up either. It is already done right here for you. And the best part is that it is shelf stable. So now we are not relying on our freezer to keep our meat safe for us, and we're not worried about if the electricity goes out, if a kid leaves the freezer door open, or if your freezer just dies on you and you end up losing all of your food and all that money that you put into buying those things. So this is an excellent insurance policy to all of those things. And it sure makes for some easy, great meals that are quick, and you can pull them out and have dinner on the table within a matter of minutes. Well, look at that, my friends. We have 5 quart-sized jars. This took us an afternoon and a little bit into the evening. Fortunately, when you have a pressure cooker like I do, you don't have a lot of hands-on work. It's just time sitting there waiting for it to finish up. But of course, there's a lot of other things we can be doing. So I fed everybody dinner, we cleaned up from dinner, and then presto, pun intended, we have our 5 jars are all ready for us, and they are shelf stable. That is the best part about this process. So not only are we putting 5 things back on the shelf that we can easily pull for dinner, we've already got our onion and our garlic already in there infused. We don't have to chop it, we don't have to cry tears over our onions, we don't have to clean it up, we don't have to stand over the stove, wait for meat to thaw and to brown it up. It is already done for us right here. But the best part about this process, the best part, is that this is an insurance policy. This is great. If ever your power goes out or a child leaves your freezer door open, I know that's happened many times before to people, or your freezer dies on you, all of your meat, all of your things that you put in the freezer can go bad in just a matter of a day or so. So to do this is an insurance policy for you and for your family, that your food no longer needs to run an electricity bill to stay good and to stay for a long period of time. So this is a great way to be self-sufficient, number one. Number two, it's just a great way to get dinner on the table a little quicker than normal, and it definitely saves me a lot of time. So I hope you liked this episode. I hope you learned something, and I can't wait to hear about your experiences. If you have a Presto canner, let me know how much you love it in the comments. It is one of my favorite tools, and I have just really started using it lately. I can't wait to show you all the other recipes and things that I have with my Presto canner. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time on Sheena's Homestead. Goodbye, friends.